Hunter Biden was indicted in the Central District of California. A plea agreement once seemed imminent on tax and gun charges, but the ante has been up with some felony counts, which could result in active prison sentence if Biden were to be convicted. But is the gun case constitutional? And is Hunter Biden's indictment connected at all with Joe Biden's impeachment inquiry? Joining us now to discuss an increasingly busy legal landscape is former federal prosecutor and Fox News contributor, someone I love to turn to, Andy McCarthy. All right, Mr. United States Attorney, what did you make of this new indictment out of the Central District of California?
Well, it's late. It was a situation where the prosecutor dragged his feet long enough that a lot of the most egregious behavior, which occurred when Hunter Biden's father, Joe, was vice president, 2014, 15, 16, the statute of limitations had run on that. Nevertheless, this was a situation where felony evasion counts were warranted. There are 3 in the new indictment. And I just think the most interesting thing about it is that for all the attention on how Hunter spent his money, the salacious details of which I think took up much of the media attention, the real issue in the case, and the real issue for the country, is how the money was generated. And the interesting thing I find, Trey, reading the indictment, is you can't really tell the story of Hunter getting all this money and spending all this money without getting into why and how the money was generated by influence peddling, even though I think the prosecutor tried pretty hard to keep President Biden out of it.
I definitely want to ask you about the interconnectivity, if any, between the indictment and the impeachment inquiry, but something's going through my mind, Andy, and I hate to make you a con law scholar. Most trial lawyers try to avoid con law, but I'm hoping that you're going to be able to help me. There's this argument among Second Amendment absolutists that Hunter Biden's gun case might be unconstitutional. People care what you think about that. How do you analyze that issue?
I think there's 2 things, Trey. One is, what would an absolutely faithful application of the latest Second Amendment jurisprudence we have, what answer would that compel? And a separate consideration, which I have a different answer to, which is, are there 5 votes on the Supreme Court to go that way? So I think if you're going to take the pure originalist position, there were no gun regulations either at the time the Second Amendment was adopted or after it was incorporated against the states that would have made it illegal to do what Hunter Biden did, which is to obtain and use a firearm when he was an abuser of narcotics. If we're going to go with the original understanding, then you would throw the case out. Do I think there are 5 votes on the Supreme Court to do that? I do not.
Andy, I'm going to promote you to a judgeship for just a moment. I want us to assume that you are overseeing impeachment inquiries. And when we hear the phrase due process, we don't like the way President Trump was treated during that impeachment process both times. Well, how much process is someone due in an impeachment inquiry in terms of access to evidence and cross-examination? You're the judge. What would you do?
Well, the first thing I do, I guess, is feel awkward about being the judge, because I've always thought impeachment, by and large, is more of a political process than a legal process. And how much process is due is actually something that, if I could paraphrase Gerald Ford, is kind of up to a majority of the House of Representatives. That may not be the way I would design it, but I think that is the way the Constitution designs it.
Well said. It is not what you and I were used to in a courtroom. It is inherently political. Maybe it was supposed to be that way. Andy McCarthy, someone we love talking to. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. We'll see you in 2024.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.